Hello everyone, I'm the Brighty Bass, and I am here with another Ant Facts video. My previous Ant Facts video was very long and contained 12 facts. This one contains 30, it's pretty much over double the amount of the last one. However, in this video, I'm going to include less information and make the video shorter. You might be questioning, well, how is the video shorter if there's more facts? Simple. The less facts, I can explain them more thoroughly, but if there's a lot of facts, I don't want the video to drag on, so I might as well explain them quite quickly. The first ant fact is the most common ant worldwide is actually the Argentine ant, from various searches I've conducted. The Argentine ant is a small red or brown type of ant that, over the decades, has been imported into many, and I mean many, different corners of the world. This ant is known for its very large growing colonies and insatiable greed. The most rare ant, so this is number 2, the most rare ant is the Tyrannomyrmex rex. I know, that sounds completely fictional, but it's a real animal. It lives in Singapore and Malaysia, and it was discovered in 2003. Before then, people kinda doubted it even existed. My third fact is, the smallest ant is Carabera bruni, which measures at an average around 0.4 millimeters in size, and lives in and around China. This small ant is diverse and can grow large colonies, so be careful. Number 4. The biggest ant is actually the giant Amazonian ant. As this name suggests, this thing is a formidable predator that lives deep within the jungles of the Amazon. I briefly covered this thing in my last ant fact video, as its name is Dinoponera, which I mentioned a handful of times in my other ant facts video. However, the Dinoponera, or giant Amazonian ant, grows to be around 1.2 inches in size, which just is absolutely just ridiculous compared to Carabera bruni, which is around 0.4. And now the 5th fun fact I have is, ants are more related to bees than wasps. After I did some searching, I don't know if this is fully correct, but all the sources I found said that ants are more related to bees than wasps. I don't know exactly why this happens, but, well, they're just more related to bees. Number 6 follows straight back there. Even though the ants are more related to bees than wasps, ants are actually more related to wasps than termites. Termites are actually closer related to cockroaches than ants, but this is an ant video, so. 7th fact is, Formica rufa ants, also known as the redwood ants, can make anthills that are absolutely just monolithic in size. The average size is 3.2 feet in height and 1.5 feet in width. Imagine a 3-foot tall anthill that's a foot wide. That's not something that you would want to mess with. Redwood ants and wood ants in general are known for their fast-growing anthills, giant armies, and formic acid equipment. These ants can be highly formidable, as they are able to deal high amounts of damage to some passers-by. By that I mean bugs, specifically. Number 8. Ant queens can live for an average of 15 years. 15 years. Yep, you heard that right, 15 years. Now, the sources I found say they live so long due to them being protected. Now remember, all the information I say in this video are based off searches I've found. Well, some are facts that I recently learned, or previously learned, but, for now, that's the whole idea. Now, number 9 is ant queens can lay an average of 1,000 eggs per day. Now, obviously, depending on the species of ant, they'll lay different amounts of eggs. And whenever a colony is just started, the queen isn't going to be laying 1,000 eggs per day. This is only when the colony is well established. However, that's 365,000 eggs per year, or 5 million in its entire lifespan. Number 10. Ants are insects, as they have 6 legs. The defining features of an insect is that, well, they have 6 legs. And so ants are, well, insects because they have 6 legs. This one was pretty simple. Number 11. Protein is vital for the ant larvae. You see, ant larvae, I briefly covered in the last video, you could feed them to get them to turn into different animals. Different, sizes. However, the thing about why protein is so vital for ant larvae is, well, it's protein. Just like how humans love to eat protein, because you might eat a protein bar. Ants are the exact same way when they're larvae. They cannot get enough of that, because protein is what helps them grow. Number 12. Carbs are kind of like the, soda equivalent for ants. Carbohydrates, which is the long word for carbs, include sugar, water, honey, and, some of the like. Basically, it's kind of like how us humans like to eat soda, or, fizzy drinks, or energy drinks. It's basically like an ant energy drink. Carbohydrates to ants are basically the ant equivalent of an energy drink. It helps the workers get stabilized and ready for action. My 13th fact is carpenter ants are some of the most common and largest ants. There's many different types of carpenter ants, with the most common genus being Camponotus. Whether it be red carpenter ants, black carpenter ants, brown, yellow, they're pretty much in any color, and they're quite large. They're called carpenter ants because they, live inside of wood. Number 14. This one's a bit lesser known. Ants can be polygynous, have multiple queens per colony is what that basically means. A polygynous colony of ants includes black crazy ants, yellow crazy ants, and Argentine ants. Basically, in the context of Argentine ants, let's use that as an example. For every 100 worker ants, which sounds like a lot, but trust me, it isn't that much. So for every 100 workers, there's actually 1 queen in the colony. Which means, as soon as the colony has reached 100 workers, pop, there's another queen. And then, that makes them go twice as fast to their goal, because now there's 2 queens, so they get to have a 3rd queen faster. And that's 3 times, and then 4, and then by queens constantly being hatched, it's like queens are laying queens on queens on queens on queens, until the Argentine ants just completely infest the world. That's why they grow so fast, is that every 100 ants, there's just a whole new queen there. Which is why black crazy ants and yellow crazy ants and Argentine ants can be so dangerous. Number 15. Ants can be found nearly everywhere on the entire planet, except, ironically, Antarctica. It literally has ant in the name, yet no ants inhabit there. It's actually quite strange. Ants can go from possibly even the tundra all the way down to the desert into the rainforest. Ants inhabit every corner of the world in many different habitats. Except for Antarctica. That place is uninhabitable. Number 16. Ants cannot tolerate strong smells. What I mean by this is mostly peppermint and vinegar and stuff like that. So, my tip is, if you got ants, now this isn't for the type of ants in my house at least, but if you have, other types of normal house ants, you could probably just put down a candy cane or something and then they would not eat it. Number 17 is, ants have a social stomach that they actually use for sharing food. You see, whenever an ant breaks down a piece of food into a little chunk, it doesn't just eat that chunk. It will eat some of the chunk, and then actually store the other bits of it inside of its second stomach, called a social stomach. As the name suggests, this is, the best way I can put it. You know how mother birds kind of, do that into the baby bird's mouth to give it food? Well, picture that, but the mother bird is an ant, and then the baby birds are just other ants. Yeah, the ants just regurgitate food out of their own social stomach into the other ant's mouth. Fact 18. This might actually come as a shocker to a lot of people that don't know much about ants, but it isn't actually the bite of a fire ant that hurts. I don't know where this misconception came from, that it was the bite of a fire ant that hurts. What next? They're gonna say a wasp bite is what actually hurts? No. And that's using the same logic. Fire ants don't bite you. Actually, they do, but that's not even the part that hurts. You barely even feel that part. They use their mandibles to just hold down your skin and make sure it doesn't, move anywhere. And then they actually use their stinger, and they sting you. And unlike lousy bees, they can sting you as many darn times that they want. And if they feel like it, they might even just put a pheromone all over you, and then there's more ants holding your skin with their jaws and then stinging you. And then you got an entire army of ants stinging you. Isn't that just great? Number 19. Here's a type of ant that I bet 99.9% of you watching haven't even heard of before. It is called the Polyrachus behetemata. I'm 100% sure I didn't pronounce that right. But it is a type of ant that has a fishing hook-like protrusion coming out of its back. Now, I don't necessarily know why this ant evolved this. All I know is that it has a fishing hook protruding out of its back. This thing definitely makes it look scary. And I imagine if you were a lizard and if you ate one of these, that would be the equivalent of someone biting a Dorito with the top of the Dorito carving into the top of their mouth. But then 10 times worse, because it's an ant with flipping hooks on its back. I wouldn't want to be a lizard or something eating that, so no, absolutely not, buddy. The first fossil of its genus was actually from the Miocene, interestingly enough. So that's a pretty cool fun fact. Number 20. There are only 2 species of weaver ant. Now, I don't know these 2 species, I don't know their species name, but I'll put them up on screen right now. These are the only 2 weaver ant species. Again, I'll make a whole separate video on those later. Number 21. Honeypot ants can expand their gasters and to hold lots of liquid. You see, remember how I was talking about this whole social stomach thing a bit ago? Well, honeypot ants, which look like this, they expertise in that. Because, you see, this is a honeypot ant replete. I know, it looks like someone put a giant bubble on this ant's butt, and then it looks like he has a giant bubble for its butt. But no, that's not actually what this is. It's not a bubble. You see, this ant, actually, whenever it's, not drinking liquid, it just looks like a normal ant. But then, this special kind of ant called the replete will drink honey. Yep, that's why it's called a honeypot ant, because they expertise in drinking honey. They will drink honey or something else and just fill up this thing on their back. These guys only live in the desert. Well, not only. I'm sure there's other species that don't live in just the desert, but most of the species of honeypot ants are native to desert environments. And the reason why they've developed this special ability is, as their name suggests, they are repletes, which means they basically just walk as walking food storage. If the colony is running low on food supply due to the fact they live out in the desert, these honeypot ants can expand their behinds to fill up with water or like something else. And so if you're ever stranded in a desert for whatever reason, and if you see little yellow ants that look like they have like giant round butts, you should literally try eating those. They might like contain water or something. So yeah, you should try actually eating those ants. I know it sounds crazy, but I mean they're quite literally meant to be walking food storages for other ants. So Number 22. There's a type of ant called the gliding ant, and it is like a flying squirrel. Now, these images I'm showing you, these just look like normal ants, right? These just totally look like normal ants, but, oh boy, how much do I have to say? You're completely wrong if you thought these was a normal ant, because its hind legs are flat, and its gaster is also flat, and it uses its flat legs and gaster to literally glide like a flying squirrel and navigate and turn around. So just imagine you're just very close to a tree and then the ant just looks like it's flying, but it doesn't have wings. That is called a gliding ant. They can only glide close to their tree that they just, jumped off of. But still, the fact that this ant can glide at all, it's still crazy to me. And number 23, there are ants called slave makers. Yep, and the name is exactly what you thought it was. These ants go into other ant nests, they excrete this chemical, this goofy pheromone, that causes every single ant around them to just be utterly just confused. And then, in the midst of the chaos, they steal the larvae, which are baby ants, and then they use chemicals and pheromones to just enslave them, hence the name slave maker ants. If you would like a more in-depth explanation to how these slave maker ants work, I highly recommend checking out Kurskazat's channel. Just search slaver ant on his channel and then you'll find the video. I recommend watching Kurskazat's explanation because it's in-depth and you get everything you need to know about this type of ant. And it's number 24. My 24th fact is there are types of ants called bulldog ants, and this is what they look like. They live in Australia, of course, and have one of the most dangerous stings of any ant. And I mean it. These ants can literally decease multiple people at once with their sting, I think. So if you're not really, now this is an actual kind of like a PSA I'm gonna say right now. If you live in Australia watching this video, and if you ever see an ant that looks like this, please just try and stay calm and slowly run away. I don't know how you're supposed to slowly run, but you get the point. Just back away, because this thing, if you're not really tolerant to venom, you could be seriously hurt. So I don't recommend going near this thing at all. Number 25. There is an ant that lives in the jungles of Borneo called the diving ants. I'll give you 3 guesses. Why do you think this thing is called the diving ant? Alright, you got your answers in? I bet you every single one of those was completely wrong. Because this thing is actually called this because it jumps inside of a pitcher plant. Now, I'm not going to fully explain what a pitcher plant is, but all you have to know is it looks like this, and it makes this smelly stuff that attracts bugs, and then they fall inside and then get eaten by it. So yeah, that's the brief explanation. So you might be wondering, well, why do these diving ants jump in there? Well, you see, it's not on purpose. So, and I don't know why they called it a diving ant then, because you see, guys, this type of ant is called this. Okay, you see, guys, this ant actually It makes nests within the hollow roots of the pitcher plant, which sounds crazy, but yes, it literally makes nests within the hollow roots of this pitcher plant right here. And then the idea is, since the pitcher plant actually attracts bugs, these ants can actually hunt the bugs. So you might be thinking, well, if this pitcher plant this thing must not be getting any food, right? Because all the ants are like hunting the bugs. But no, because the reason why they're called diving ants is that they'll accidentally fall inside of the pitcher plant while they're hunting the bugs on it. So the pitcher plant still gets some food in the form of the ants, and the ants get food because the pitcher plant attracts bugs. So this is what we call a symbiotic relationship. They happen all the time in nature. And number 26. This is more of sort of like a fungus fact rather than an ant fact, but I'll include it. There's a fungus called the zombie ant fungus. Scientific name, Ophiliocordyceps ulantarellus. I know I pronounced that wrong. And the idea is that it infects an ant, hijacks its nervous system, causes the ant to walk up a plant or somewhere high, and just kind of pop and then spread the spores onto ants below. Yeah. Number 27. The ant with the smallest head is Carabera minutua. They live in leaf litter. And that's it. I quite literally kind of have no other information about this type of ant, because I know nothing about it. And it seems not a single person online knows anything about this ant either. Number 28. The ant with the biggest head is Phodoli megacephala. It lives nearly everywhere. You might commonly know this thing as the big-headed ant. I mean, it's right there in the name. Anyway, you see, this ant's quite common amongst shorelines and other similar areas. This thing can be a formidable predator, as you gotta think, with such a large head, it will be able to crush down on prey quite easily. It can hunt small animals, and the majors of this species could potentially be dangerous in large numbers to larger creatures. The entire Phodoli family in a whole is widely known amongst the ant community, and this one is a great one that you can find everywhere. Number 29. The long-legged sugar ant has very long legs, and it is actually a type of carpenter ant. There's quite literally no information about this entire creature online. The only reason why I know that this thing is called this is because of one image. I was looking for an ant that had long legs, and in my search I saw an image of like an ant that was labeled the long-legged sugar ant, and it said it was like a type of Camponotus, but yeah, there's no information about this creature. And like every time I try and get information, it's all on websites that are from like the UI looks like it's from like 2005, and there's not even information about the species, just vague information that it lives somewhere, and that's it. So if anyone has any information about this obscure ant, I don't know its species name now, it's called the long-legged sugar ant. You'll find, if you search that up and then go to images, you should find an image. It looks like a black ant carrying like a moth. If you know any information about this creature, please share, because nowhere I could find any information about this thing. And number 30, the final fact. Did you know that most ants are actually female? I probably should have ranked this higher up, but you see, almost every single ant on Earth is female. The reason why I say almost is, well, you see, there's these drone ants that do what's called a nuptial fight with the queen. They fly up into the air and mate, and then the queen ant makes a nest. However, the male ants shortly get deceased afterwards, which makes me wonder... Hamburger!